While the red arrows did their thing all over a clear sky, philosophers wrestled with the question, could Watson do it twice in the British Grand Prix? Doing it once was already something, because at Brands Hatch you have to run 2 races in the one afternoon. The first race is from the start to the first corner on a track too narrow to hold all the cars. If you survive that, you get a chance to start the second race from the first corner to the finish. Bernie Eccleston came down after successfully negotiating with the man upstairs for a fine afternoon. He had to thread his way through an assortment of aircraft, including a biplane flown by Balestri, who was crop dusting the crowd with nerve gas. A hospital plane flew in to pick up the survivors.
Meine Damen und Herren, liebe Motorsportfreunde, 40. Großer Preis von Großbritannien, großer Preis von England, auch bei uns genannt, 10. von 16 Weltmeisterschaftsläufen im Jahre 1982. Hier Brands Hatch, die kurvenreiche, die unheimlich interessante Rennstrecke vor den Toren Londons gelegen, südlich von London. 4,2 Kilometer eine Runde, 76 Runden zu fahren, Gesamtdistanz 319,67 Kilometer. Dieser große Preis von England wird ein sicher spannendes Rennen werden, er wird ein schnelles Rennen werden, schnell, weil hier im Training Rundenschnitte von 218 Kilometern in der Stunde erzielt worden sind. Das ist unglaublich, das zeigt die unglaublichen Fahreigenschaften der heutigen Formel-1-Wagen, wenn man denkt, dass hier noch vor 15, 18 Jahren mit unter 150 Kilometer in der Stunde gefahren wurde. Auf der gleichen Strecke, hier gibt es keine Änderungen, die Strecke präsentiert sich original wie eh und je. Und Sie sehen, meine Damen und Herren, ein Blick hier auf das Publikum, auf dieses unglaublich riesige Publikum. Das gibt ein Motorsportfest, wie das eigentlich nur in England stattfinden kann. Weit über 100.000 enthusiastische Fans sind gekommen bei einer für englische Verhältnisse großen Hitze. Wir haben über 25 Grad hier, ein heißer Sommertag, der Himmel ganz leicht bewölkt, mehrheitlich aber blau. Ideale Verhältnisse an der oberen Grenze von der Temperatur her, und das wird natürlich ein hartes Rennen für die Fahrer. Das wird hart, weil diese Strecke nicht nur unheimlich anforderungsreich ist, diese Strecke verlangt natürlich körperlich vom Fahrer sehr, sehr viel. Er fährt fast dauernd in Kurven, er ist dauernd am Beschleunigen und am Bremsen. Die Bremsen werden hier überhitzt, das Getriebe wird beansprucht und bei heißen Motor- und Bremstemperaturen wird es dem Fahrer im Cockpit natürlich auch sehr heiß werden. Ein Blick auf die Startaufstellung, Sie sehen sie eingeblendet. Pole Position zum ersten Mal in seiner Karriere. Keke Rosberg, der Finne, auf Williams. Erstmals also steht er zuvorderst. Hier im Rennsieg heißt er zuvorderst rechts. Seine Trainingsbestzeit 1 Minute 09,54 und das entspricht einem Stundenmittel von 218. Neben ihm Riccardo Patrese auf Brabham. Er fuhr 1:09,627, ganz knapp hinter Rosberg also. Zweite Startreihe, der Weltmeister Nelson Piquet auf Brabham und Didier Pironi auf Ferrari. Dritte Reihe, Niki Lauda in seinem 122. großen Preis. Lauda auf McLaren und Arnoux auf Renault. Vierte Reihe, Elio De Angelis auf Lotus und Alain Prost auf Renault. Fünfte Reihe, Michele Alboreto auf Tyrrell und Derek Daly auf Williams. Sechste Reihe, Andrea De Cesaris auf Alfa Romeo und John Watson in seinem 131. großen Preis. Watson ist ja der Doyen der Rennfahrer, nach gefahrenen Rennen der älteste. Watson auf McLaren. In der siebten Reihe Patrick Taube auf Ferrari und Bruno Giacomelli auf Alfa Romeo. Giacomelli, der einen schlimmen Trainingssturz hatte, der in der Hawthorne-Kurve seinen Wagen völlig demolierte, völlig unverletzt war und mit dem Ersatzwagen ins Rennen gehen wird. In der 8. Reihe Theo Fabi auf Tolman und Derek Warwick, sein Teamgefährte, ebenfalls auf Tolman. 9. Reihe Brian Henton auf Tyrrell und Jean-Pierre Jarier auf Osella. Auch Jarier, einer der Veteranen, fährt heute seinen 115. großen Preis. In der 10. Reihe Roberto Guerrero auf Ensign und Jacques Lafitte auf Talbot. Lafitte in seinem 117. großen Preis. Er ist also nach gefahrenen Rennen der drittälteste. In der 11. Reihe Chico Serra auf Fittipaldi und Mark Surer auf Eros. Mark Surer, der seinen 26. großen Preis fährt, der natürlich etwas enttäuscht war über diesen Platz in der 11. Reihe, der aber meinte, mit diesem Auto, das zu schwer sei, das 580 Kilo schwer sei nicht mehr zu holen. Und damit meinte er natürlich, dass im Training die Konkurrenten mit leichteren Autos fahren würden, was verboten ist, was aber hier kein Mensch kontrolliert. 12. Reihe Nigel Mansell auf Lotus. Mansell erstmals seit seinem Unfall in Montreal wieder am Start, noch behindert durch seinen gebrochenen Arm, der erst am Ausheilen ist, und Eddie Cheever auf Talbot. Cheever geht mit dem alten Talbot an den Start, nachdem er mit dem neuen überhaupt nicht zurechtkam, nur Probleme hatte. Sein Teamgefährte Lafitte fährt mit dem neuen Wagen, steht allerdings aber ja nur 2 Reihen vor Cheever. In der letzten Reihe schließlich Jochen Mass auf March in seinem 103. Grand Prix und gerade noch als 26. und letzter qualifiziert Mauro Baldi auf Eros. Es haben sich nicht qualifiziert beide ATs, Manfred Winkelhock und Eliseo Salazar, dann Jan Lammers, der Holländer, auf Theodor und schließlich Raul Bösel auf March. 26 Wagen am Start. An diesem Start, der in etwa 8 Minuten stattfinden wird, dann wird der Vorstart sein und ziemlich genau um 15 Uhr englischer Zeit wird das Rennen dann echt gestartet. Große Spannung hier, große Spannung, weil ja das Gerücht umgeht, Brabham werde nicht mit vollen Tanks losfahren, sondern werde vor Rennmitte nachtanken. Was bringt das nun? Das ist ganz einfach gesagt. Die Turbomotoren, und der Brabham BMW ist ja ein Turbofahrzeug, brauchen sehr viel Treibstoff. Man geht von 220 Litern aus. Nun, dieser Treibstoff, dieses Gewicht, das extra mitgeschleppt werden muss, macht den Wagen natürlich am Anfang langsamer. Und nun hat man bei Brabham offenbar kalkuliert, dass wenn man einen geplanten Boxenhalt einschaltet und diesen Boxenhalt möglichst kurz macht, dass man dann im Endeffekt schneller sein könnte, indem man erst einmal der Konkurrenz davon fährt, am Boxenhalt dann nicht sehr viel verliert und am Ende weit vorn liegen wird. So die Theorie. Das hört sich recht gut an. Wir werden erleben, ob Brabham tatsächlich hält. Auf jeden Fall wurde in Donington eine Schnelltankanlage getestet. Es wurde auch der schnelle Reifenwechsel getestet. Man will ja gleichzeitig auch die Reifen wechseln und damit auch das Risiko minimieren. Man vollzog Nachtanken und Reifenwechsel in 15 Sekunden. Nun, dazu kommen natürlich auch noch die Sekunden, die man braucht, um abzubremsen und an die Boxen zu fahren, und die Sekunden, die es wieder braucht, loszufahren an den Boxen und hinauf zu beschleunigen. Ich würde meinen, dass ein solcher Boxenhalt, wenn er gelingt, wenn das Manöver in 15 Sekunden beendet ist, insgesamt etwa 40 Sekunden kosten dürfte. 40 Sekunden müssten die Brabham also bis zu ihrem Boxenhalt vorausfahren. Wir werden sehen, wie das ausschaut. Natürlich könnte das Ganze auch ein großes Täuschungsmanöver sein. Es könnte auch sein, dass Brabham die Konkurrenz im Sicheren wiegen will. Dass, wenn die Brabham vorne leicht wegfahren, die Konkurrenz sich sagen kann, wir brauchen uns nicht beeilen, die Brabhams müssen ja an die Boxen. Das ist ein völlig neuer Aspekt hier im Grand Prix Sport. Wir kommen wieder zu Zuständen, vielleicht, wenn das heute stattfindet, wie wir sie in den 30er Jahren hatten und auch später noch. Bis 1959 gab es solche Boxenhalte zum Nachtanken. Das steigerte die Spannung, weil natürlich viel mehr Ungewissheit herrschte, weil die Mechaniker durch ihre schnelle oder langsame Arbeit das ihre beitrugen. Nun, vielleicht eine willkommene Abwechslung im Grand Prix-Sport, immer wieder mal was Neues. In diesem Fall ist es nichts Neues, aber für die letzten 20 Jahre zweifellos wirklich etwas Neues. Brands Hatch, meine Damen und Herren, das sind große Erinnerungen für den Schweizer Automobilsport. Und wenn wir das noch ausweiten und vom großen Preis von England überhaupt sprechen, dann kann man sagen, das ist die Veranstaltung der Schweizer. 5 Siege gibt es eigentlich insgesamt. 1936 Hans Rüesch, in Donington war das damals, das Rennen war allerdings nicht ganz offiziell als großer Preis deklariert. 1949 in Silverstone Emanuel de Graffenried auf Maserati. 1968 dann hier im Brands Hatch der große Sieg von Joe Siffert. 1979 wieder in Silverstone Clay Regazzoni. Brands Hatch ist aber auch eine Strecke der Tragödie des Schweizer Automobilsports. Hier im Brands Hatch in der Hawthorne-Kurve verunglückte am 24. Oktober 1971 der große Schweizer Grand Prix-Rennfahrer Joe Siffert. Am großen Preis von England gibt es auch einen Rekordsieger, so wie Graham Hill das in Monte Carlo ist. Das ist hier in England Jim Clark, nicht weniger als 5-mal gewann der große Jim Clark den großen Preis von England. Wir sahen vorhin Keke Rosberg, den Pole Position Man, und jetzt Didier Pironi, den Ferrari-Werksfahrer, mit 2 Grand Prix-Siegen in dieser Saison. Pironi, der jetzt in sein Auto eingestiegen ist, und wir konsultieren die Uhr. Es sind noch ungefähr 2,5 Minuten bis zum Vorstart. Es gab im Training neben diesen horrend schnellen Rundenzeiten und diesen hohen Schnitten den bereits erwähnten Unfall von Bruno Giacomelli, der glücklich verlief. Es gab auch eine leichte Rempelei zwischen Rosberg und Arnoux.
Bei einem der Höhepunkte jeder Grand Prix-Saison, Formel 1 Grand Prix von England im klassischen Mutterland, also des Automobilrennsports. Hier in diesem Land hat ja der Motorsport begonnen. Das ist Niki Lauda, der an der 5. Stelle im Training gelegen ist. Niki Lauda startet also aus der 3. Startreihe. Er ist der schnellste Fahrer mit französischen Reifen gewesen im Training, und er ist der zweitbeste Fahrer mit einem Cosworth Ford Saugmotor gewesen, auf einer Strecke, auf der allgemein jedermann mit einem großen Erfolg der Turbos gerechnet hat. Keke Rosberg, der Finne, hat Trainingsbestzeit gefahren und steht zum ersten Mal in seiner Karriere auf dem besten Startplatz. Hinter Rosberg dann Patrese und Piquet mit den beiden Brabham BMW Turbos, Didier Pironi mit dem Ferrari, und an der 5. Stelle, wie gesagt, Niki Lauda. 6. ist René Arnoux mit dem Renault Turbo, hier im Bild. Arnoux, Sie erinnern sich vielleicht, hatte vor 2 Wochen in Zandvoort einen fürchterlichen Unfall im Rennen, und zwar ist ihm links vorne das Rad weggebrochen. Darum der Unfall mit 300 Kilometer pro Stunde damals gegen die Tarzan-Kurve. Arnoux ist so gut wie unverletzt geblieben, ein paar Prellungen, die er mittlerweile aber längst vergessen hat. René Arnoux auf Renault Turbo war 6. schnellster im Training. Sein Teamkollege Alain Prost 8. schnellster, dazwischen der Italiener Elio De Angelis auf Lotus, dann 9. Alboreto, 10. Daly. Darf ich gleich sagen, wer sich nicht für den Grand Prix von England qualifizieren konnte: Winkelhock und Salazar mit den beiden deutschen ATS-Wagen, der Holländer Lammers und der Brasilianer Böser. Hier haben Sie noch einmal die Startaufstellung. Zum ersten Mal also Trainingsbestzeit für Keke Rosberg auf Williams. Rosberg, der noch nie in seinem Leben einen Grand Prix gewonnen hat, der heute zum 45. Mal in einem Grand Prix startet. Und das Williams-Team, das ja das erfolgreichste Team der beiden letzten Jahre war, mit Alan Jones und mit Carlos Reutemann, hat ja heuer noch keinen Grand Prix gewonnen. Und heute erleben wir bereits den 10. Weltmeisterschaftslauf der Saison. Rosberg also, dann Patrese und Piquet mit den beiden Brabham BMW Turbos. John Watson, der Weltmeisterschaftsführende, weit abgeschlagen, nur an 12. Stelle. Dann Tom Bay, Giacomelli, Fabio und Warwick mit den beiden Tolman Hart Turbos. Das sind die großen Überraschungen im Training gewesen. Weiter Hinton, Jarier, Guerrero, Lafitte, Serra, Sura, Menzel, Chiva, Maas und Baldi. Einige Fragezeichen über diesen Grand Prix von England natürlich, was uns in allererster Linie interessiert. Kann Niki Lauda, der einzige noch aktive Rennfahrer, der jemals in Brands Hatch einen Grand Prix von England gewonnen hat, heute wieder gewinnen? Es kommt sehr viel auf die Distanz an. 320 Kilometer. Brands Hatch erlebt heute den längsten Grand Prix des Jahres. Man kann erwarten, dass einige Fahrer in den letzten Runden ohne Benzin liegen bleiben. Was
feeling that they could go faster having 2 stabs at it equipment-wise than going the whole distance and treating the race like a sprint. So we'll have to see how they go. The Brabhams, as I said before, have got to pull away from the field in order to be competitive with the race at something like an average of about 3/4 of a second a lap. They're running about half tanks of fuel, so they'll have an advantage in the opening laps of the race because they'll have considerably less weight, like possibly 150, 200 pounds less to carry. And of course they get the other advantage when they refuel halfway through the race. They'll put new tyres on as well, and this is a definite advantage. So it's a very interesting concept, and I honestly think that it could work.
Well, time will tell, and not so very much time either. Will the Blue Perfect Royal Automobile Club Motorsports Association organisation at this superb, and Keke Rosberg has stalled his engine and is having a push start. You can see the air starter moving with him. That's bad news for Rosberg. They're moving off on the warm-up lap now, and drama right at the beginning with the Williams mechanics having to get behind Rosberg's car, give it a push to get it going. But now they are going to be off on this usual warm-up lap to get the tyres up to working condition, and still on the line is Keke Rosberg. Now, is this push going to get him going? It usually does, surprisingly enough, because the air starters don't always get them going, but a push usually does, and it has. James.
What a terrible problem for Rosberg, sitting on the pole, done all the work. He hasn't had a lot of luck this year. The field, meanwhile, are going around quite slowly. He's got plenty of time to catch them up. They can just get that engine to fire. But it's pretty hot here at Brands Hatch. We've got a little bit of humidity. I wouldn't be surprised if he got some fuel vaporization there in his fuel pump. You sometimes get an airlock with fuel vapor.
They're having to push uphill, of course, here, because the gradient from the start up the Brabham Straight to Paddock Hill is definitely up.
He should also stuff it in reverse and let it try and bump it as they run it back down the hill. Well, there go the field out. They're out round the back of the circuit, round Hawthorne's Bend, the fastest corner on the circuit, which the cars are taking nearly flat out now. Keke Rosberg is now away. He's going to have to hurry to catch the field up, and it's very much a question of whether he'll dare elbow his way to the front of the pack to retake up his pole position. But he's got plenty of adrenaline going around him now. He's driving like a man possessed, and he can just catch the field, but technically he's not supposed to barge his way up to the front. But I think that if he can catch them before they come round clearways, the last corner on, he will do it.
Well, what a dreadful start for Rosberg, but his dander will really be up now, and here he is coming over the crest and up towards Hawthorne Hill and Hawthorne Bend, as the rest of the competitors are streaming round Stirling's Bend on their way to Clearways and Clark Curve. They will pause momentarily. They are supposed to just stop, get into position, and then about 5 seconds later the race starts.
Well, Rosberg will just about be able to catch them, but they'll be coming round Clearways. If he catches them, we'll have to see if the adrenaline puts him in the mood to barge his way up to the front. Trouble is, of course, he's on the right-hand side of the track, and that's the less easy side of the track on which to do the barging. He's got to come down the inside and maybe get grass on his tyres. So there's the field just pulling up. Rosberg is not far away now. We can't see him coming shot. Here he comes round the last corner, Clearways. Is he going to try and barge? No, he's going to start from the back of the grid by the look of things. Poor Keke Rosberg, really an absolute tragedy for him. He's taking the rule book by the letter, staying where he is.
And Derek Ongaro, the official starter who starts all the Grand Prix, will be looking down the line, waiting for the unfortunate Finn, Keke Rosberg, to come into position. That means, of course, that the two Brabhams are up front, Riccardo Patrese and Nelson Piquet, and that's the trouble. Out goes the Patrese, and out goes Arnoux. Well, Arnoux yet again has failed to get going in a Grand Prix, and meantime, with Patrese out, up to Druids Hill Bend goes the second Brabham. It is that of world champion Nelson Piquet. So massive drama right from the beginning. Rosberg fails to start. Out goes Patrese at the start, and out goes Arnoux, and so two of the turbos are out.
And Lauda took big advantage of the mess at the start. They went straight up into second place from his fifth grid position, but really that was a tragic start. We got a wonderful race on our hands. We lost the poleman Rosberg, who's already up there. You saw him in shot now. Rosberg has already made up about, I think, getting on for 10 places in the race, but Patrese stalling on the grid really was a terrible thing, and I don't understand how Arnoux hit him, because he had plenty of chance to see him, but it was a bit messy, and we've lost 3 of the front runners, although we've got Rosberg coming to the field.
And one of the Tolmans is out. It is that of Theo Farby is out at the beginning of the race. Theo Farby has failed to get his car up to Paddock Bend on the first lap, so already 3 of the 8 turbos are out of the British Grand Prix, and it is Piquet leading with Lauda second, and Pironi third, and De Angelis fourth, and Alboreto fifth. And I remind you that Nelson Piquet is running on low fuel, he's running on soft tyres, he is running on a special brake setup almost certainly, and what he is aiming to do now is to build up a 40-second lead so that he can come into the pits and, as Barry Gill and James were telling us, change tyres and wheels, top up with fuel and get away, and if he does that it will be a real breakthrough in modern racing.
Well, the wheels seem to have fallen well so far for Niki Lauda. One car blowing a bit of smoke there. I couldn't quite see which one it was. But Lauda qualified very well. He's right in form. The McLaren car has gone very well indeed. And to be out in second place with a nice clear run is terrific. But a word about Patrese with the start, because although he's only just started in the turbo car, we know, here we see the start again. Patrese, you see his arm up. He's just stalled the engine. His arm went up right at the last minute. And now, I have to say, I have to criticise Patrese for this, because we know that turbos are difficult engines to keep running and difficult engines to get off the line. But a professional racing driver should have practiced that. The rest of the field getting through, at least they pushed themselves to the side. But a professional racing driver should really have practiced getting the thing off the line, because it's the most stupid way to lose a race. And apart from that, as we've seen recently, it's also very dangerous and a hazard for other people. So I think Patrese, without knowing the exact circumstances, if he just stalled the engine by not having practiced keeping it running, that is very bad.
Well, I noticed something else significant. As Patrese and Arnoux collided, John Watson threaded his way past them from his 12th position on the grid. And do you remember at Silverstone last year, Villeneuve went off, took Alan Jones with him, nearly took John Watson, but Watson subsequently came through the field to win the race. Well, there is Didier Pironi in 3rd position. There is Elio De Angelis, who is 4th. Alboreto is in 5th place. Derek Daly is 6th. And then De Cesaris is in 7th place. And the race leader is still Nelson Piquet, the brilliant world champion Brazilian, who has dedicated himself this season to developing the Brabham BMW, and they are coming up now to complete lap 3 in this 76 lap, 198.6 mile race, and it is Piquet breaking away now. Piquet, as we watch the battle for 5th position, led by Michele Alboreto and chased by Derek Daly going round Paddock Bend. Nelson Piquet in the Brabham BMW turbocharged car, and there is, it's Chico Serra. Chico Serra, the Brazilian in the Fittipaldi car, is out. You can see that the fire extinguishers are already being played on the Fittipaldi, and by the way, that is the F8 Fittipaldi and not the F9, and Derek Daly is past Michele Alboreto. The British Grand Prix, and coming up behind is De Cesaris, and well up there is Derek Warwick in the Tolman, and John Watson is off. My goodness, what a race this is. John Watson in the McLaren is out. So Rosberg is out. No, he's keeping, right at the beginning he stopped. Then out went Arnoux and Patrese. Out went Tolman, out went Serra, out went Watson. And you have just seen him walking in. And here is the race leader, Nelson Piquet, completing lap 4 as a bitterly disappointed John Watson walks home. And Piquet now leads as he goes into Paddock Bend. He's really streaking away from the field and building up that lead, and off goes yet another one I can't identify from here. It's Roberto Guerrero. I wonder what on earth is causing all these problems. James, do you have any point of view on why so many people are flying off?
Well, that's mechanical, but I think Watson looked as if he'd spun because his car was parked sideways on. It didn't appear to be damaged. He may have spun and not hit anything and stalled it. Of course, we had a start line accident, but I think we just got the combination of... oh, look at that gaggle round Paddock Bend. They're all going around side by side.
Well, we are now on lap 5, and in the lead, Nelson Piquet. Behind him in second place, Niki Lauda in the leading 3-litre car. Then in the Turbo Ferrari, Pironi third. De Angelis in the Lotus is in fourth place. In fifth position, just moved up, Derek Daly. And in sixth position now is De Cesaris, as we look at the two Talbots come over the crest. And by the way, Eddie Cheever is in the older, there he is in the JS17, followed by his team leader, Jacques Lafitte, in the JS19, and on lap 5, it is Piquet leading, and I will give you in a moment the time interval between Nelson Piquet and the second place man, Niki Lauda. Piquet trying to break away, there he is, and the gap is 6 seconds after 5 laps. So, Piquet is breaking away at the rate of more than a second a lap, and we understand that he's going to come in on lap 36 or 38 to do this tremendously exciting, we expect, refuel and tyre change, and by that time he needs to have a 40-second lead, so he's absolutely bang on target at the rate of rather more than a second a lap lead increase. And if he can keep that up, he's got a chance of winning this race. Lauda still second. Watch for the red and white McLaren. There is Piquet coming down into clearways at the end of the 6th lap as we look at the two Talbots. Eddie Cheever in the blue and white JS17 leading his teammate Jacques Lafitte in the JS19. And Piquet is setting up an absolutely scorching race. We'll give you a lap time as soon as we have one. There he is, up to Druids. We are looking down on Druids from our new 170-foot high position, which gives, as you can see, a magnificent view of the race. And Piquet is in a class now of his own, not only by virtue of his driving brilliance, but because he is driving a car which is superbly set up, which is significantly lighter than all the others, which is on soft race tyres. And there goes Prost, followed by Patrick Tambay, followed by Giacomelli, and that looks like Jean-Pierre Jarier taking him on the right. No, it's not, it's Rosberg coming through the field. Rosberg.
Yes, Keke Rosberg is about half a minute behind Nelson Piquet leading the race. He's just got clear of some traffic that was holding him up a bit, but I still think that Rosberg is a potential favourite for the race. Despite that today, if he can just get through the next traffic a bit, he's very, very quick. He was dominated the qualifying, and I think he can catch Lauda, but then of course it becomes a question really if the Piquet-Brabham tactics can work. At the moment they're looking very good. They're pulling away on schedule and over a second a lap, which is better than they need to do, particularly in view of the fact that they'll take on new tyres, so long of course as their pit stop goes okay, because drivers never want to make pit stops because there's always something that can go wrong. You get a lot of heat in the car around the hubs and everything, and sometimes a wheel jams on and things, and what can be a beautifully planned 12-second pit stop can turn into half a minute or even a minute.
Keke Rosberg, who is in pole position and has yet to win a Grand Prix, is in 11th position, 26 seconds behind Nelson Piquet. And he is probably the fastest man on the circuit at the present moment, and I do include Nelson Piquet, because the Brabham is in absolutely superb form, but so too is the Williams.
Yes, Rosberg is absolutely flying. He is going quickest on the circuit when, of course, he gets a clear lap. But his next problem is Pironi's Ferrari, which he's been catching up hand over fist, but it's the perennial power problem, and we're going to have to, and it'd be nice to see just how Rosberg can deal with the Ferrari, with Tambay's Ferrari.
Well, let's watch. Tambay in only his second Grand Prix for Ferrari. He made his return to Formula One racing at the Dutch Grand Prix 2 weeks ago when he took over the car of the late Gilles Villeneuve, his great friend, and decided to opt out of Can-Am racing in Canada. And watch the way Rosberg is really flying. He's coming down now to compete compete his 9th lap into Clark Curve, now along the Brabham Straight, which is 165 miles an hour.
He's going to try and get a good run at the Ferrari through Paddock Bend and then try and outbrake him into Druids at the top of the hill. He's going hand over fist quicker through Paddock, and he's in perfect position to have a go.
And looking down, there they go, there is the Ferrari. Watch now, Keke Rosberg coming up to Surtees, the 3rd gear, 150 mile an hour. He shapes up to go through on the inside. The blue flag is waving, and that is Alain Prost. There is Tambay, and here now he's drafting. Keke Rosberg is almost close enough to nip out of the slipstream of Tambay.
Yes, except just watch the power of that Ferrari. They get onto the straight, you see that's Rosberg closing up hand over fist through the corners. The Ferrari just puts on the accelerator and away he goes. And Rosberg's got a little bit of a problem now because he's had a good run at him for a lap. I've been watching closely, we've all watched closely, there's no obvious point. And Piquet has slowed down. That's Piquet cruising into the pits, so Piquet's got a problem.
We're going to see Piquet lose the lead in a moment. The Brabham has blown. Nelson Piquet is out of the race on lap 10. And that means to say there's going to be a new race leader, and that new race leader will be Niki Lauda, the dark horse that many people... There he is! There is Lauda. Watch him now, and you will see him pass Nelson Piquet's Brabham BMW. Look all round the picture as Niki Lauda, XX World Champion, the man who won at Long Beach, will shortly take the lead.
Well, that's a real shame for us spectators because we had a potentially very good race with Piquet out. We've lost so many of the front runners, but of course we've got one exciting thing, and that is that Keke Rosberg, for me, is favourite for the race at the moment, but he's got a lot of work to do, and he's coming to the field, and I think that the McLaren pit should be informing Lauda of Rosberg's progress through the field, because he's undoubtedly the man to watch.
Well, there is Rosberg, where is Lauda, and that's Daly, Derek Daly there. And now Derek Daly in 4th position. The position now, let's go back to the situation. Niki Lauda leading, Didier Pironi in 2nd place. Up into 3rd position in the Williams goes Derek Daly. He's never been as high as that. Then Elio De Angelis. Behind him, Derek Warwick is in 5th position. Then Andrea De Cesaris. Then Alain Prost, and then the battle between Tambay and Keke Rosberg. And we are looking at the 3rd place man, Derek Daly, new race leader, and all that work that Brabham did to evolve this new system of race refueling and tyre changing has gone to waste. And there is Rosberg behind the Ferrari as we see now Niki Lauda. And it is Lauda leading, then behind him in 2nd position Pironi, then Daly 3rd, then De Angelis 4th, and then, joy of joys for British enthusiasts, Derek Warwick. So the Toleman in 5th position in a race, and all the work the Toleman have been patiently doing for 2 years, developing their car. Look at the Renault and the Brabham BMW parked as Niki Lauda, the fox of Formula One racing, now on his 12th lap out of 76, goes on his way, the world champion 2 years, and there is Derek Warwick. Now, where is Warwick in relation? He's closing up on Elio De Angelis, and Elio De Angelis is in 4th position. Now, this is absolutely marvellous. I make no bones about it. It's great news.
Absolutely, because they flattered in Zandvoort. The Toleman car was very, very fast there for the first time in its history. They hadn't done well in testing here at Brands Hatch, but they've obviously found something since then, because the car's going really well. And once he gets behind De Angelis on the straight, the engine's obviously giving a great deal of power, because he's been gobbling up cars on the straight. There he is, closing right up on De Angelis. I suspect he'll have to sit behind him now till possibly the top straight as they go past the pits. I would think that, oh, he's having a go here, and he's done it.
Straight past. Well, that shows you the power of the Toleman on its new, narrow, very sticky and long-lasting Pirelli tyres. They've worked tremendously hard. There are Pirelli tyres, there are Avon tyres, and here's a replay. Now let's look at the Toleman passing De Angelis.
Yes, pure power. They've got their chassis sorted out well. He was well through the corner then, and then they just give a little bit of squirt on that turbocharged engine, and That's the big advantage of the turbo.
Meantime, Pironi and Daly are having a battle, and there they are. They are battling for second position. We're looking at the scrap for second place. There is Pironi round Druids Hill Bend. Derek Daly in the Williams chasing him. Derek Daly from Dublin and Shuttlanger. He lives near Silverstone. And Didier Pironi, number 28, a double Grand Prix winner of 1982.
But to liven that battle up, we have Derek Warwick now not very far behind and closing up. So we're hopefully going to get a three-way battle for second place. Warwick stand just behind him down the end of the straight. Pironi goes through, Daly goes through, and there goes Derek Warwick, and he's already pulled out a huge lead on Elio De Angelis, who's falling back a bit.
Lap 13, and Nicky Lauda leads. Pironi second, Daly third. De Angelis is now behind Derek Warwick, who is in fourth position. Sixth is De Cesaris, seventh is Rosberg, eighth is Prost, ninth is Tombe. So Rosberg has got past Tombe and got past Prost, and there is Derek Daly coming up and going past the Renault and the Brabham, chasing Patrick Tambay into Paddock Hill Bend, 140 miles an hour, up Halewood Hill. Down through the gearbox, into second gear for Druids. Look down on it. Watch the drivers at work as they accelerate away. Third gear here, now fourth gear, 125 miles an hour. And you're looking at the battle for second. On the right, the Ferrari of Didier Pironi, the V6, 600 horsepower, turbocharged car, being chased by the Brian Hart engined car of Warwick, which is behind Derek Daly. But Daly now is having a considerable job, and I can tell you that Henry Rosberg is now up into sixth position. He's really storming through the field. He's ahead of De Cesaris, and you see McLaren there, driven by Lauda, leading with the Ferrari second, the Williams third, and we're looking at them now. Then Derek Warwick in fourth position in the Tolman. De Angelis fifth. Henry Rosberg is in sixth position, and it's a great British Grand Prix. Pironi and Daly. Well, Derek Daly, having got his way through the field, is now going to have a considerable problem to catch, let alone get past Didier Pironi, because Didier is driving the Harvey Postlethwaite, Dr. Harvey Postlethwaite designed Ferrari with its turbocharged engine, and Harvey Postlethwaite is here himself to supervise the setting up of the Ferrari with its new full-rod front suspension, which has copied that of the Brabham, which has had it for many, many years. But it's handling beautifully, and now Derek Daly is getting into a situation where he could challenge Pironi for second position. Daly, 29 years old, it's his 43rd Grand Prix. The man who has driven so many Formula One cars, he's driven for Ensign, Hesketh, Tyrrell, March, Theodore, and now Williams. And he's taken the place of Carlos Reutemann in the Williams team. And Williams, of course, and we haven't yet said hello, and I'm sorry to our many thousands of viewers to Channel 9 in Australia. And you're watching, as you so very often have in the past, the Williams, the car that Alan Jones took to World Championship victory, now being driven by Derek Daly in a great, great drive. Pironi, there he is, number 28, the man from Paris, 70th Grand Prix, 2 wins behind him this year, second in the World Championship. And by the way, let us not forget that John Watson has now today very well and truly blown his chances of being world champion, unless he can really climb up through the field in the remaining races, because he has lost the possibility, the very remote possibility of 9 points, whereas Didier Pironi at the present moment is in the running for 6, which would put him 5 points ahead of John Watson in the World Championship. And there, we haven't seen him for some time, and we are now on lap 16 out of 76, with therefore 60 to go. The brilliant Nicky Lauda, who patiently set up his Marlboro McLaren over the last 2 days, worked away at the Michelin tyres, choosing the right compound, getting his suspension settings right, working with Ron Dennis and John Barnard, the McLaren team leader and the car designer, and it looks as though Lauda's enormous experience, because he is in his 122nd Grand Prix now after 14 years, and is paying off. And if Lauda finishes in the points in this race, he will become... And that is Rosberg going into the pits. Keke Rosberg, lap 17 into the pits. Well, what's the trouble? Having got all the way up to 6th position, Rosberg to the pits.
What a crying shame. I've just been watching the gap rather carefully between Rosberg and Lauda, and they were very, very evenly matched. And it really is a shame that Rosberg stopped on the grid and therefore couldn't get off for a good race up front for us. So mechanics now are swarming around Rosberg's car. He hasn't got out anyway. He's on the jacks, and yes, he's going out again. They're just holding him there. He's got the engine running.
Patrick Head gesticulating on the right. That's the car designer. Go, he says, and out blast Keke Rosberg as Mauro Forgeri, the Ferrari team chief, watches him go. And now he's got to do it all over again. And Nigel Mansell, I should tell you, those of you who are naturally interested in how he's going, was in 15th position, Nigel Mansell, and he's just past Jochen Maas, so he's moved up a place. And Nigel, in spite of the pain, is keeping going. And there is Didier Pironi and Daly and Warwick. 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and this is the Tolman day, if ever there was one. And Derek Warwick is blowing to smithereens any doubts that anybody had that he was not a truly superb driver. Now, Warwick is already a double world champion. Many people don't realise it, but he was a world Superstocks champion for 2 years in 1972 and 73. Then he was triple Formula 4 champion. Then he was runner-up to Brian Hinton in the Formula 2 Championship of Europe in 1980. And now we've got the 2nd, the 3rd and the 4th cars together. Ferrari, Williams and Tolman. 2 turbos sandwiching the Williams.
Yes, and it looks very much as if the Tolman is going to gobble them up in a moment. I think Warwick, if he gets a good run through clearways now, may well be able to attack Daly on the straight. If not, he's going to have... Yes, the Tolman's really got a lot of power now. Terrific acceleration, and he just eats Derek Daly up simply.
What a drive! Derek Warwick in that tremendously powerful Brian Hart car is now up into 3rd position, and I can tell you that the crowd is really alive to this situation. The man who last year couldn't even qualify in this car, who couldn't even at the beginning of this year qualify, has now shown his mettle, has shown that Alex Hawkridge and Brian Hart and Rory Byrne and Roger Silverman and all the rest of them have really justified themselves.
And he's about to attack the Ferrari now. He hasn't quite got the power to sweep past him as he did past Daly. He's going to have to do it on manoeuvrability around the corners, get a good run out of one of the corners. But as usual, the Ferrari is going to prove a lot more of a problem to pass. But Derek Warwick at the moment is... if not the fastest man on the track, well, he's probably the fastest man on the track with the exception of Lauda, and it's just a question of whether Lauda's got anything if Warwick can just get past Pironi.
And let us not forget that it is not just the turbo and the car and Warwick, it is the tyres. And now the Goodyear-tired Ferrari being chased by the Pirelli-tired Tolman, and there is Derek Warwick. And there is actually a new Tolman chassis being designed. The Tolman people acknowledge that the chassis now is not up to the engine, so heaven help the opposition when the new car comes out expectedly for the Italian Grand Prix at Monza in September.
Yes, I'd take the other attitude, Murray, and say if I were them, I'd stop building the other chassis. This one seems to have really got it together now, and without any doubt their Pirelli tyres are working very well. And Warwick is now in perfect position to have a go at the Ferrari, but funnily enough, the Ferrari just seems to have a very slight edge on power, and he needs to be right on top of him to get past into Hawthorne, so he's coming to the problem. What Warwick has got to do now is plan the rest of this lap so he's coming up close to the Ferrari as he comes out of clearways, because it looks to me as if clearways is going to be his main passing opportunity.
And this is lap 20. You are looking at the battle for 2nd with 3 cars involved in it. Pironi has the place. Warwick is 3rd. Daly is fourth. Behind them, De Angelis is fifth. De Cesaris is sixth. And this was where Warwick started to gain on the Ferrari on the last lap. He couldn't do it again.
I've just noticed, Murray, irrelevant to that, a pointer to possibly why Rosberg pit stopped, because Daly's left rear tyre looks to be slightly marked up. And it appeared that if they changed anything, they changed the rears on Rosberg's car. So maybe, particularly with the way he was charging through the field and throwing the car about all over the place, which he does anyway, Tolman is well placed there. He's having a go, but he's going to have to get very quickly round out of the slow corner here to get a good run down the straight. And he is. He's coming right up behind. He's getting too close too early, actually. If he just leave it off, because it's very difficult overtaking into Hawthorns.
Meantime, let us not forget Lauda. He is 20 seconds ahead of this battle, and these two will inevitably be slowing each other up, because Pironi will be intent on keeping Warwick back, and therefore not necessarily using the ideal racing line, and equally Warwick will be struggling to get past Pironi. Second, third and fourth, and Daly is dropping back a bit, not much, but just a tiny bit, a few inches, and now this again could be Warwick's chance. They are coming into lap 22.
Yes, Warwick was perfectly placed coming in, but he didn't get the power on quite early enough out of Clearways, because this, I think, to get a good run through Clearways corner and then pass on the top straight here is his ideal opportunity. He's gone a little bit wide, a little bit of a mistake there by Warwick. Doesn't matter, he'll catch it up. Daly's not quite close enough to take advantage of it, although nearly.
Well, there is a very distinct gap. It looks to me as though Daly is closing right up at Warwick. And yes, look at the gap now with Pironi pulling away.
Yes, Warwick appears to be in trouble. Something has happened. Maybe he's lost some power in his engine. But we'll see, or maybe he just made that mistake and it's taking him that little bit of time to recompose himself, which does happen after you made a mistake, because you start to panic, try and catch it up too quickly. You have to tell yourself to settle in again.
Lap 22, Lauda leads, Pironi second, Warwick third, Daly fourth, and there are Warwick and Daly. De Angelis is fifth, De Cesaris is sixth, Prost is seventh, Tombe is eighth, Lafitte is ninth, Giacomelli is 10th, Chiva 11th, Sura 12th, then Henton 13th position, and behind Brian Henton in 14th place is Baldi, then Mansell is 15th, Rosberg is 16th, and struggling to the front again. Jochen Maas is 18th and 17th, and Alboreto is 18th. And now they come through to complete their 22nd lap. Niki Lauda has already done so, and Lauda is now 22 seconds ahead of Didier Pironi, the Scarlet Ferrari on the right, with Warwick in third position, Daly in fourth. This is the battle of the race. And 23 laps now on lap 23 out of 76, and the gigantic 100,000 plus crowd at Brands Hatch is really getting value for money today. There is Pironi, the winner at San Marino, the winner subsequently at the Dutch Grand Prix, 29 points in the World Championship. There's the confirmation of the situation, with less than just about a second separating the second man, Didier Pironi, and the fourth man, Derek Daly. And De Angelis is 4 seconds behind Daly in fifth position, with De Cesaris quite a way behind De Angelis, about 20 seconds. So it is McLaren leading, Ferrari second, Tolman third, Williams fourth, Lotus fifth, Alfa Romeo sixth, Ferrari seventh, and Alain Prost Renault in 8th position and out of the points. And that means to say that McLaren, who are doing extremely well, like leading the Manufacturers' World Championship, are currently consolidating their position, because, of course, Niki Lauda is driving a Marlboro McLaren, and once again, Warwick is right up with Pironi. And they are closing up on somebody to lap him, and I will identify him as soon as I see closely who it is. Here he comes over the crest of the hill now, and it is Jochen Maas. Jochen Maas, now Jochen knows enough to keep out of the way of Pironi, and Pironi is going to be taken, or is he, by Derek Warwick? Well, Pironi will have to play his cards very carefully here. He's got to choose the moment to pass Maas. And they both surge past Jochen, who in his gentlemanly way, and he is a great gentleman, moves over and lets the second place Ferrari and the third place Tolman through. And how strange but pleasant it is to say the third place Tolman, because we certainly didn't think that we were going to be able to say that this season. But Derek Warwick holding a superb third place as they stream through to complete lap 24 into Paddock Hill Bend, up Halewood Hill, into Druids, and once again Warwick is right with Pironi.
So nearly, he was having a go, then he had a good look inside, but of course the straights aren't quite long enough here at Brands Hatch. I would say that these two cars are fairly evenly matched power-wise and handling-wise, and that presents a great disadvantage to the car following. The guy in front has all the cards really, except for the odd back marker. Warwick close again. It's also very much more physically wearing to drive that close to a car in front, because you've got to be doubly sharp, because you can't see where you're going. For a start, you've got a fairly blocked view, so you've got to look at the sides of the track to maintain your bearings at all times. And the car doesn't grip as well, so it tends to slide a lot more when it's right in the turbulence, in the air turbulence of the car in front.
A quick flash to tell you that Nigel Mansell, who was in 17th place with his injured hand, has gone into the pits. As you see, the second, third, fourth still practically together, but especially the second and third. And Warwick is now coming right up to Didier Pironi. He's in a position to take him. Look at this, he's going to drive straight past. And he does so. Derek Warwick is up into second place with a masterly passing manoeuvre straight past the Ferrari. Now, can he pull away?
Fantastic. I'm sure he's going to pull away, Murray. He was going quicker before. He caught the Ferrari. He caught him and passed him. And it was only a hiccup in his progress as he sat behind the Ferrari. Here we are. We see it again. Warwick finally got his car into perfect position, coming out of clearways. He was well placed on the straight. He doesn't have any power advantage over the Ferrari. He had to just draft up behind and use his momentum from the previous corner, and he outbraked him in a perfectly conventional fashion into Paddock Bend. And now I anticipate that he will extend a lead over Pironi quite comfortably. The big question now is, can he make any progress on the gap to Niki Lauda, who's got something like 25 seconds up on him?
Well, and needless to say, we will be watching that. We will take the gap between Niki Lauda. There is Derek Daly in fourth position. And Elio De Angelis is now with Daly. De Angelis in fifth position is closing up on the Williams. Now, I can tell you that De Angelis in the warm-up period had a massive understeer problem in the John Player Special, the black and gold car. But they seem to have dialed it out somehow after the warm-up period. And De Angelis is right up with Daly, although you will recall that James drew attention to the fact that one of the rear tyres on Daly's Williams seemed to be going off a bit. But look now at the gap that Derek Warwick has pulled out over Didier Pironi. Indeed, since he passed him, he is now nearly 2 seconds ahead. And the question is, can Derek Warwick in second position in the marvellously rejuvenated Tolman, leading Didier Pironi in third place, Derek Daly in fourth, and De Angelis in fifth place, do anything about Niki Lauda, who is leading him, this man, Warwick, by 26 seconds. Well, there is Lauda, the smoothest driver on the circuit. Niki Lauda, who has got so much experience, more than anybody left in the race. John Watson has driven in more Grand Prix than Lauda, but Lauda has got a very old head on his 33-year-old shoulders in terms of racecraft and experience. And he's now coming up to Mark Sura in the Arrows, who waves him past, who indicates to Niki Lauda that he should pass on the right, but Lauda does not do so. Now he does. And now he's got Brian Hinton in front of him. And Brian Hinton, number 4 in the Tyrrell, was 7th fastest in qualifying, and there is Rosberg in the pits. It looks as though Rosberg's race is run from the point of view of doing well, as Niki Lauda is now right up to the Tyrrell of Brian Hinton, coming down into clearways to Clark Curve, and I have no doubt that Brian Hinton will move over and let the flying Marlboro McLaren through. He does so. Niki Lauda is passing him on the line, and now I will be able to give you the gap between Niki Lauda, the race leader, and the second place man, Derek Warwick, and it is of the order of 25 seconds, but there are still nearly 50 laps.
Vor Derek Warwick, 27 vor Pironi, 28 vor Daly, 29 vor De Angelis, 49 vor Tambay und dann 53 vor Lapid, 55 vor Prost, 61 vor Giacomelli, 65 vor Chiva. Niki Lauda mittlerweile auch an Brian Henton vorbeigegangen, dem zweiten Fahrer von Tyrrell. Henton lag liegt immer noch an 13. Stelle. Nigel Mansell mit dem Lotus. Voriges Jahr bei seinem Heimat Grand Prix in England und zwar in Silverstone nicht qualifiziert gewesen. Heute mit angebrochenem linken Handgelenk am Start und die Differenz zwischen Lauda und Warwick beträgt 25,4 Sekunden. Das heißt, Derek Warwick hat in der letzten Runde 9 Zehntel aufgeholt. Niki Lauda zum ersten Mal seit seinem großen Comeback-Erfolg in Long Beach in Kalifornien wieder in Führung eines Grand Prix. Lauda hat sich im Training gestern wieder einmal selber überboten. Er war auf den 8. Trainingsplatz zurückgefallen, hat dann eine super Runde geschafft und zwar die drittschnellste des Tages hinter Piquet und Patrese. Hat sich dadurch, Derek Daly war an den Boxen, hat seinen 14. Platz an De Angelis verloren. Naja, das Reifenexperiment bei Williams scheint nicht aufzugehen. Beide Williams-Fahrer, Rosberg und Daly, mit den weichsten Reifen ins Rennen gegangen. Sie haben gesagt, wir betrachten das eigentlich nicht als Risiko, aber die 3 Boxenstopps, 2 von Rosberg und einer von Daly, dürften, glaube ich, das Gegenteil beweisen. Welche Reifen hat Niki Lauda gewählt? Das wird Sie sicherlich interessieren. Auf der rechten Seite ganz weiche Reifen, auf der linken Seite halbweiche, also etwas härtere Reifen als rechts, braucht man für die sehr schnellen Rechtskurven von Brands Hatch. Lauda, Warwick, Pironi, De Angelis, De Cesaris und Tambay jetzt an der 6. Stelle. De Cesaris und Tambay haben natürlich vom Boxenstopp Derek Dalys profitiert. Derek Daly wird von Niki Lauda jetzt gleich überrundet. Daly ist auf den 11. Platz zurückgefallen. Warwick, Baldi, Pironi, De Angelis. Dahinter Rosberg. Rosberg hat bereits 2 Runden verloren. Wir sind bereits in der 31. Runde des Grand Prix von England in Brands Hatch. 45 Runden noch zu fahren. Falls Sie sich den Nachmittag noch ein bisschen einteilen möchten, um etwa 5:30 Uhr Ihrer Zeit, also zwischen 17:30 und 17:35, wird dieser Grand Prix von England zu Ende sein. Warwick, Baldi, Pironi, De Angelis, Sie sehen schon aufgrund dieser Einstellungen, welche interessante Rennstrecke Brands Hatch ist. Es gibt Senken auf dieser Strecke, es gibt Bodenwellen, es gibt Kurven, die nach außen hängen, es gibt Kurven, eine Haarnadel, die im zweiten Gang gefahren wird, ruhig, dann gibt es die besonders schwierige und spektakuläre Paddock Hill Bend, da gibt es die sehr schnellen vierten Gangkurven, über 200 Kilometer pro Stunde, draußen Hawthorne-Kurve, Westfield-Kurve, Dingledale Corner, Sterlings-Kurve und dann Clearways, die Zielkurve. Nigel Mansell in langsamer Fahrt unterwegs Richtung Foxton. Es hätte mich gewundert, wenn Nigel Mansell diesen Grand Prix hätte ausfahren können. Aber immerhin, er hat sich sehr tapfer geschlagen und 31 Runden lang durchgehalten. Ich kann mir nichts anderes vorstellen, als dass Mansell den Grand Prix von England jetzt aufgeben wird müssen. Schließlich muss er daran denken, dass nächsten Sonntag schon wieder ein Grand Prix stattfinden wird, und zwar der französische in Le Castellet. Überhaupt im Augenblick ein sehr dicht gedrängter Kalender. 4 Grand Prix-Rennen in 4 Wochen. Brands Hatch, dann Le Castellet, dann 2 Wochen Pause bis Hockenheim und dann Zeltweg. An Kegerosberg an 16. Stelle. 16 Fahrer noch im Rennen. 11 in der gleichen Runde. Lauda, Warwick, Pironi, De Angelis, De Cesaris, Tambay, Lafitte, Frost, Giacomelli, Cheever und Daly. Eine Runde Rückstand Henson, Baldi und Sura. 2 Runden Rückstand Maas und Rosberg. Pironi, De Angelis und Rosberg. Vorsprung von Niki Lauda 28,9 Sekunden, also fast eine halbe Minute.
Well, Didier Pironi fighting to keep De Angelis behind him. De Angelis fighting to close up on the Frenchman in the Ferrari and take 3rd position. And behind both of them is Keke Rosberg. Now, Rosberg is only in 16th position and has been lapped, but it's going to be very, very interesting to see how the Williams goes, the FW08 Williams goes, compared with the JPS 91 of De Angelis and, of course, the Ferrari of Pironi. The Ferrari and the JPS are coming through now to complete lap 34, and that is the race leader, Niki Lauda, who is on lap 35. The Austrian, the great Austrian, out on his own, coming up to lap Eddie Cheever, who is in 10th position. So already halfway through the race, Niki Lauda has lapped everybody up to 10th and is very soon going to take that man, number 25, Eddie Cheever. And there they go. Cheever moves over. Lauda momentarily lifts his hand and acknowledges the American's politeness and moves ahead and is now in a position to close up on and subsequently to lap the 9th position man, Bruno Giacomelli. As we look at 2nd, Pironi, 3rd in the black and gold JPS, number 11, Elio De Angelis, and it is Lauda now leading Warwick by 29 seconds. Warwick is 5 seconds ahead of Pironi. Pironi is about a second and less between him and... So let's recap. Lauda leads. Then in 2nd place, Derek Warwick. In 3rd position, Didier Pironi. In 4th place, Elio De Angelis. And there it is, the Scarlet Ferrari 3rd. The turbo, 1.5 litre turbo against 3 litre normally engine, Ford-powered Lotus. Those of you who are not familiar with motor racing may wonder, as Elio De Angelis closes up on Pironi, how it is that a 1.5 litre car could be quicker than a 3 litre car, and the answer is turbocharging.
Yes, that's just a form of supercharging. Rosberg has managed to squeeze past De Angelis there, but he's got a bit wide in doing it, all a bit messy. Will he maintain the place? But Rosberg is about to confront himself with the same problem course, that De Angelis has been confronted with for some laps now in the all-powerful Ferrari. Yes, the air is forced in by a turbine is driven by the exhaust gas pressure of the engine, which then gives a pressure into the inlet manifold, and as it turns out, although the formulae were devised and meant to be equivalent in that 1.5 litre turbo when the rules were made was thought to be able to give approximately the same sort of power as a 3 litre normally aspirated engine. In fact, it turns out that the development that's gone into turbo engines now means that they give considerably more. And in fact, the turbos, they're more complicated, they're a little bit more heavy, and they're a lot more expensive, which is why the British teams don't run turbos. They can't afford them, but they definitely give a lot more power now. And here we see Rosberg again. He just pulled out. He went in very, very quickly indeed into Hawthorns, as a result of which you'll see he stood a little bit wide on the exit, got onto the slippery stuff. Bit of a moment he had there. As soon as the tail of the car twitched a bit, De Angelis, though, showed a fair bit of respect and restraint, realising, of course, that Rosberg was just unlapping himself.
And Rosberg fairly flying away from Elio De Angelis and closing up on the Ferrari of third-place man Didier Pironi. And by the way, you saw a marshal wave a blue flag as Rosberg came up to take Elio De Angelis. And it gives me an opportunity to congratulate the British Motor Racing Marshals Club, who are acknowledged to be the finest body of marshals in the world by no less an authority than Keke Rosberg, who, having won 100 bottles of champagne for finishing in pole position for the British Grand Prix, donated them all to the marshals. He said the British marshals are the best and they deserve it. Well, now there is Jochen Maas in the march, about to be lapped by Pironi, and Pironi's got this perennial problem of trying to get ahead of the man in front whilst keeping back the man behind him, and he's striving to do so as Keke Rosberg goes round 30. He's chasing him. Now, number 17 is the march of the West German driver Jochen Maas, who finished second at Le Mans, and Pironi is past him. So now Rosberg has got to get, and he dives straight from one side to the other and slingshots his way past with no bother at all. But now Elio De Angelis has got to take Maas, because De Angelis must not lose contact with Pironi. Pironi in third position, De Angelis is fourth. De Cesaris, and we haven't seen much of him in the Alfa Romeos, in fifth position ahead of Patrick Tambay. So both the Ferraris are in World Championship scoring positions.
Yes, that was very interesting there to see that manoeuvre again, because Jochen Maas, I thought, signalled his intention better than he usually does, because one thing he is noted for is his ambiguity of the way he behaves when being overtaken. He's not a very fast thinker, and he doesn't look in his mirrors a lot. And there was some discussion over the accident in which Jules Villeneuve was killed, because Jochen Maas was the car in front, and obviously it was caused by a misunderstanding. And Rosberg, on the other hand, there was taking no chances, so he thought he'd go the conventional way round, even because Maas was probably being a little bit indecisive again.
Well, while Pironi in third place and Rosberg, who is now in 16th position, are metaphorically tripping each other up in their anxiousness, on the one hand not to let the other pass, and on the other hand to get past, Elio De Angelis does not seem to be grasping his opportunity to close up on Rosberg, hopefully to get right with Pironi. There is number 11, Elio De Angelis in fourth position, now 41 seconds behind Niki Lauda. And Niki is so much in a class of his own that he's now leading the race by 33 seconds. Niki Lauda in the Marlboro McLaren leading on lap 40 in this 76-lap race by 33 seconds from Derek Warwick, and there is Bruno Giacomelli.
Niki probably thinks that the Brabhams are still in the race, because that's fairly uncharacteristic of Niki to push away to such a big lead. One of the characteristics of his driving previously in the old days was that Niki was usually pretty happy with a 10-second lead, or certainly a 20-second lead, to then, having achieved that, to then set on it and pace himself to the rest of the field. But of course he maybe had tuned himself differently mentally in the knowledge that he'd have to get a big lead with the Brabhams running, and is now still programmed into that.
Well, Niki Lauda an enormous 308 points in the 121 Grand Prix in which he has driven. He has won 18 of them. He has finished second in 15 of them. He's had 17 third places. He's been on pole position 24 times. And as you see, he now leads Warwick by 31 points, who is 8 seconds ahead of Pironi, who is 2 seconds ahead of De Angelis, who is 18 seconds ahead of Tombe, who is 1 second ahead of De Cesaris.
59 auf Tombe.
Niki Lauda there is certainly one of the 3 or 4 greatest Grand Prix drivers of all time, who truly merits to be bracketed with Jackie Stewart and Fangio and Jim Clark and 1 or 2 others by virtue of his driving ability and by virtue of the fact that he drives with his head. So Lauda on his way, and Derek Warwick is stopping. We have news that Derek Warwick is slowing down. There he is now. Let's see what's happening. This will be bitter gall for Warwick and the Tourman team. Yes, you can see he's going slower. This is lap 42, and Derek Warwick certainly seems well, he certainly seems to be speeding up a bit there, but let's see what these cars behind him do. Are they closing? It's Pironi. Pironi is right with him. And so is Rosberg, who is in 16th position, and so therefore is Elio De Angelis. There is going to be a change for second place now as they come into clearways. Past him go Pironi, and now De Angelis, and Derek Warwick puts up his third hand after having driven an absolutely superb race.
Yes, sad obviously to see him going into the pits, but nevertheless it must be thrilling for the Toleman team. He's going in for tyres. They're giving him tyres anyway, but I think he slowed too suddenly for it to be just tyres, so we'll see if they do anything else to the car. That's a routine manoeuvre anyway. Stick it on a fresh set of tyres. They're grippier when they're fresh, so you do that automatically. There's a little bit of chat going on around the cockpit, but whatever happens, the Toleman team in the last 2 races, they must feel that the 2 years of heartache and everything have made everything worthwhile in these last couple of races, because they really suddenly come from having a car that was really struggled to qualify and usually didn't, so they've been absolutely flying.
Well, now the interest at the front is partly between these two, Pironi and Rosberg, but even more behind the car which is just behind Rosberg, that of Elio De Angelis. You saw it momentarily there. There he is. Because Elio De Angelis is now up into 3rd position. I said earlier on that De Angelis had had a string of 4th, 5th and 6th places. For instance, he was 5th at Long Beach, 4th at Belgium, 5th at Monaco, 4th in Canada, and then he's had a lot of failures to finish in recent Grand Prix, but he's now up into 3rd place now that the unfortunate Warwick has moved out of 2nd place and Pironi has taken that position. And there is number 11, 24-year-old Roman, who, though he actually lives in Monaco now, Elio De Angelis, the ex-European kart champion of 1975, and that is the Toleman of Derek Warwick, who significantly is out of the cockpit, and that means to say that Warwick is clearly out of the race. And as James said, it's obviously more than tyres. There's Warwick. You can see Warwick talking to, I can't identify him for the moment, but in the background, in the overalls, Derek Warwick, and I can see from his despairing gesture that he's obviously very, very disappointed, as he rightly should be. And meantime, Elio De Angelis is still well in touch with Didier Pironi, and on lap 44 out of 76, Lauda leads by 42 seconds now from Didier Pironi, who is 2 seconds ahead of less than 2 seconds ahead of De Angelis, with De Cesaris 4th, Tombe in the 2nd Ferrari in 5th position, and in 6th position, the last World Championship scoring place, Alain Prost.
Derek Warwick, the man who's brought the British crowd to their feet. What happened?
We're coming out of Druids. I had a drive shaft go on one side, and it was just driving on one side. I come away round to the pits, but it was an inboard drive shaft gone, and there's no way they can change it in the time.
Derek, it seems an obvious remark to make, but you look bitterly disappointed. You've driven absolutely superbly, the best drive of your career, surely.
Well, the car was fantastic. The engine was superb. The Pirelli tyres were just as good as when I started them. I mean, what can I say? It's just bitter disappointment for Tolmans. The team above all else needs a break, and we just didn't get it.
All I can say, Derek, is that everybody watching, including the BBC viewers, thought it was a superb performance. Hope you're not too disappointed. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
Well, very bad luck for Derek Warwick, but certainly I think the team must be absolutely thrilled with the performance, and it's the most difficult thing in Grand Prix racing is to get your car to go fast and competitively, and this they've proved to do. Now they can go away and do their homework and get the thing to run properly and finish races. But when, as I said before, you've struggled for a couple of years in the doldrums with a car that wasn't competitive, wouldn't run properly, wouldn't run consistently, to see this performance and, of course, the Dutch Grand Prix performance was extremely encouraging for the team.
And we look at Nicky Lauda, who is effortlessly carving his way through the field, lapping tail enders, and he has now lapped everybody up to Alain Prost in the Renault. Prost now in 7th position because Derek Daly is fighting back and doing extremely well, and the positions on lap 43, and we're now actually on lap 46 because Nicky Lauda has just gone through to complete his 45th lap in this 76 lap race, and as we watch the race leader, there are the positions. Pironi second in the Ferrari, De Angelis John Player Special third, the Alfa Romeo de Cesaris in 4th position, the second Ferrari of Tombay in 5th place, and Alain Prost Renault in 6th position. And congratulations to Patrick Tombay, because this is only his 2nd Grand Prix in the Ferrari. And number 27 in the Scarlet Ferrari, Patrick Tombay, the extremely amiable Frenchman, one of the most popular men in Grand Prix racing, is really making his mark again, and there he is, Patrick Tombay in the V6 turbocharged Ferrari, the man who drove for the McLaren team for a while, and it was not at all a happy association. He's driven for Ensign, he then drove for Theodore, and at the beginning of this year, at the South African Grand Prix, he was so disgusted by the driver's strike that he said, I want nothing more to do with Formula One. I'm going to back to Can-Am racing and to living in Los Angeles, where I'm very happy. And I know it was only Ferrari, because he told me himself, that could possibly have persuaded him to come back into Grand Prix racing. He has done so. He is now in 5th position in his 2nd Ferrari Grand Prix, and he's right with Andrea de Cesaris, who is 4th. So it could well be that we are going to see the Italian driver, Andrea de Cesaris, number 22, who is actually the youngest driver in the race, taken by the French driver in the Italian Ferrari, Patrick Tombay, and in the situation to lose his 4th place. Down under the bridge, Clearways Clark curve, and this corner is taken at 140 miles an hour before they change up into 5th gear, build up the speed, go down the Brabham straight, and just watch Tombay closing right up on Andrea de Cesaris, who is in 3rd position, 15 seconds behind, and he's through. Great drive.
Yes, Tombay using the power of the turbo there, just to nip through, got well placed on the straight, was quick through paddock, and then actually stood on the brakes of the Ferrari very well indeed.
And that's one of the Tyrrells out of the running. It rather looked like Brian Hinton to me, who's in 11th position, but I was identifying from above, so we'll have to take a check on that. Meantime, as you see, Patrick Tombay is now really pulling away from De Cesaris, who was 18 seconds behind De Angelis, and it is not inconceivable on lap 48 in this 76 lap race that Patrick Tombay, going as well as he is, could close up to that battle for 2nd position between Didier Pironi and Andrea De Angelis. And fastest lap then, 1:13.56. Derek Daly, and the interesting thing to me about that is that it means that Didier Pironi's 1980, 2 years ago, lap record in the Ligier V8 Ford-powered car has still not been broken, which is a great surprise to me.
The midfield.
Lauda leads, Pironi second, De Angelis third, Torbay fourth, De Cesaris fifth, Daly 6th, Prost 7th, Giacomelli 8th, Chiva 9th, Baldi 10th, Benton 11th, Sura 12th, Rosberg 13th, Mars 14th, Lafitte 15th. Warwick out of the race now, Mansell 16th position before he had to retire, and the man that was touring in, I fear, was Michele Alboretto's subject to check. And all the time, Niki Lauda is forging on as we look at Alain Prost, and this will be the immaculate driver, the effortless Austrian Niki Lauda on his 49th lap. There is Alain Prost, the man who for a long time led the World Championship in his Renault, but casting our minds back to the fact that René Arnoux went out of the race not because of a car problem, but because of a coming together with Patrese. It will at least be encouraging to Renault as we watch Niki Lauda cross the line to complete his 49th lap. It will be at least encouraging to Renault that their car is continuing to run because they've had so much mechanical problem lately. And Alain Prost is just in the points, just out of the points at the present moment. But he could still close up. And still, Keke Rosberg struggles to get past Pironi, and now De Angelis is right with Rosberg, and therefore with Pironi, who is in second place.
Yes, De Angelis didn't put up a fight when Rosberg went past to unlap himself. I think he was rather hoping that Rosberg would show him a way around the Ferrari, but Rosberg has been equally stumped, as has pretty well everybody else in a normally aspirated engine car. They just haven't got the power to get into position to attack the Ferrari.
Well, we all talk a lot about the difference between the turbos, and now Rosberg is starting to climb all over Pironi. We talk about the difference in power between the turbos and the normally engined 3-litre cars. Now De Angelis is right with Rosberg. The fact is that a Ford V8 powered car is leading the race now by 40 seconds. De Angelis shaping up to try and get past Rosberg. It must be maddeningly frustrating to De Angelis because he will probably realise that Rosberg has been lapped, and he wants to get to grips with Pironi, not Rosberg, because Pironi's in second place. The gap, as I said, between Lauda and Pironi has come down from 40 seconds to 43 seconds. Is it conceivable, James, that on lap 51 out of 76, Niki Lauda is already starting to pace himself home?
Yes, I'm sure he is, Murray. But in fact, I'm surprised that he hasn't started cruising up and pacing it a little bit earlier, because that's very much Niki's style of driving. At the moment, a 40-second lead is very big. He's now got just over 20 laps to go, so he can at least knock off his speed by a second a lap, which Niki has always liked to do.
Alain Prost, that is, in the Renault. And there is Lauda, now completing his 51st lap, coming down the Brabham Straight at some 165 miles an hour as he slows up to a mere 140 to take the adverse camber downhill Paddock Hill bend, then up into Druids. Now he's coming up to Prost. Prost is in 6th position. So Alain Prost in 6th position and in the World Championship points position. He'll get 1 point if he finishes in 6th place, and that will give him 19 points and bring him up level with Riccardo Patrese, who went out as soon as the race finished. He just left the start line. Well, he didn't even leave the start line because his engine stalled and Arnoux went into him and pushed him forward. So Patrese did a few yards, but it was thanks to Arnoux and not to his BMW engine in the Brabham. So Prost in 6th position, closing right up on him, soon to lap him, is Niki Lauda. And Elio De Angelis is past Keke Rosberg. And now closing right up on Pironi, and there you have it. Now, at last, Elio De Angelis, who is driving, I think, the race of his life. He finished in 2nd place in Brazil some years ago in 1980. in his first season with Lotus, and he hasn't finished as high up as that since. And we're now seeing, with Rosberg apparently having decided that he'd better give best to De Angelis, that it's quite possible that we're going to see a 3-litre car win the race and a 3-litre car finish in second place if De Angelis can get past Pironi.
Yes, well, Pironi's going to be working very hard to keep and hold that second place because, of course, he's very much up in the thick of the World Championship and frankly looks like the favourite to win the championship right now, particularly in view of this race. 1 point behind Watson when the day started. Watson already out of the race. If Pironi can get 6 points out of this, it'll be very useful. Of course, there's a 2-point swing to the next place. And so he's going to make himself as wide as possible. He obviously can't get away from them for speed, but he's for sure isn't going to give that place away, and it's going to be hard work for De Angelis to earn it. Rosberg's had his turn trying to get round. De Angelis has already had a turn before. Now they've swapped back, and it's De Angelis' turn just to try and find a way.
You rejoin us here at Brands Hatch, looking down on this magnificent Kentish circuit. The bitter news is that Derek Warwick is out of the race on lap 42. He had a drive shaft break. He was in second position, about 40 seconds behind Niki Lauda, who continues to lead the race, and was about 5 seconds ahead of Didier Pironi, who was then third, with Elio De Angelis fourth. And now you see the positions there. On lap 54 now, out of 76. Lauda is now some 43 seconds, ahead of Didier Pironi in the Ferrari, who has got Elio De Angelis crawling right over him to try and take that second place. Patrick Tambay in the second Ferrari is driving a magnificent race in only his second race for the Italian concern. And there is Lauda. And behind Tambay, by the way, in fifth position is Andrea De Cesaris, and the race leader, Niki Lauda, has lapped everybody up to the fifth place man, Andrea De Cesaris, but Alain Prost, having been lapped, is in sixth position.
Well, John Watson, this has not been a good day for British heroes. We've just seen poor Derek Warwick go out, but of course, although he's lost second place, you've lost first place in the championship if the race stays like this. What happened?
Well, I managed to avoid the first accident, which was the one on the start line with Petresi and Arnoux, and then lost a lot of places in doing so. And on the third lap, coming down the back straight into Hawthorne's corner, Serra and Jarier had a collision, apparently due to the wheel on Jarrier's car coming off. And I was just behind Keke Rosberg, who then had to avoid those two leading two cars in front of him. I in turn had to avoid him and got a wheel on the grass. In doing so, car spun across the track, stopped without any damage at all, but the engine had stalled and I couldn't restart the engine, so I had a long walk home.
John, it must be a bitter disappointment for you after a day that promised so much, particularly as you say your car is completely undamaged and just wouldn't start.
Well, it's been a frustrating weekend one way and the other, and the race started off not very well, first of all, and it didn't finish very satisfactorily either. And the only good thing I can say is at this stage, Niki Lauda, my teammate, is leading the race, and he's going to take 3 points away from Pironi if he stays in second place, so I have to thank Niki for something.
John, let's hope he does. Thank you for talking to us, and better luck next week.
Thank you, Barry.
Lap 56, Niki Lauda leads by 42 seconds from Didier Pironi, and here is the action, because thundering along behind Didier Pironi, number 28 in the Scarlet Ferrari, the man who is now leading the World Championship if he finishes this race in the first six, is Elio De Angelis in the black and gold John Player Special. De Angelis in third position, and he's less than a second behind the Ferrari, and he is some 17 seconds ahead of Patrick Tambay in the Ferrari, who is in fourth place. In fifth position is Andrea De Cesaris, and sixth and lapped is Alain Prost. 7th, and lapped, of course, is Bruno Giacomelli. And there is the gap between Didier Pironi, who is 2nd, De Angelis, who is 3rd, 1.1 seconds. And De Angelis, I think, will be able to close up on Pironi. He has done so several times in the past. Pironi coming up to lap Marc Surer, the Swiss driver in the Arrows, who is in 12th position. There's a lot of lapping going on all round the circuit now, but this is the excitement and the drama on the circuit. The battle between Didier Pironi, number 28 in the Ferrari, and Elio De Angelis, the Italian, in the John Player Special for 2nd position. But Patrick Tambay is definitely gaining on this battle. Tambay, in only his 2nd race in the Ferrari, in the scarlet car which carries Gilles Villeneuve's number 27. And Tambay is acclimatising himself extremely well. He hasn't driven at Brands Hatch for a very, very long time, some 4 years, and he had to relearn the circuit when he came here for testing, as well as learn the characteristics of the V6 turbocharged Ferrari. So he's driving a truly inspired race. And the 2nd and 3rd men now, and it looks to me as though Pironi is actually more than holding, indeed increasing the gap between himself and De Angelis as he rounds the right-hander at Westfield, goes into the dip at Dingledell, comes up to Dingledell corner, out of it in 4th gear, into Stirling's Bend, the left-hander in 3rd gear at about 110 miles an hour, accelerates up into 4th, then momentarily to 5th to take clearways at some 140 miles an hour. And it really does look, James, I think, as though De Angelis is not going to be able to make up that gap.
Yes, he's certainly been trying hard enough. He's had plenty of very few opportunities, but plenty of time to do it, and he let Rosberg through to let Rosberg have a look to see if there was a way around. Rosberg was unable to pass the Ferrari, and that was always a problem with that extra power here. There we see Niki Lauda cruising around very comfortably. He's got a comfortable lead. He's letting it just melt away a little bit in order to preserve himself and his car, saving the equipment. He's still got 40 seconds or so on Pironi, and meanwhile, anyway, Pironi is well busy with his battle, fending off De Angelis.
And behind these two, with De Angelis in the Alfa Romeo look-alike to the Marlboro McLaren behind him, Eddie Cheever in the JS17 Talbot has caught and passed Bruno Giacomelli and taken 7th place from him. So on lap 59 now, it is Niki Lauda leading, Didier Pironi 2nd, Elio De Angelis 3rd. In 4th position it is Tambay, in 5th position it is De Cesaris, lapped in 6th place is Prost, then in 7th position it is Eddie Cheever, in 8th position it is Bruno Giacomelli. Well, what a phenomenon this man Niki Lauda is, as we look at Pironi in 2nd place and De Angelis in 3rd. He's had 2 years out of motor racing after dramatically stepping out of his car, the new Ford-powered Brabham, at the Canadian Grand Prix in the practice 2 years ago, well 3 years ago now. Niki Lauda steps out of his car and says, and here he is in the lead at the British Grand Prix, I will race no more, it makes no sense this going round in circles, I'm going to do something else, and the something else was to develop Lauda Air, his newly established airline in Austria. Well, he did that extremely well, bought himself several aeroplanes, developed routes, and then he got fed up with that and said that he could still feel the urge to race in his veins. Came back and tested at Donington at the end of last season, decided that he was going to join the McLaren team, and he's already won 1 Grand Prix this year and looks as though he's on his way to his 2nd. Does it make you itch to get back into the fray, James?
No, not at all, Murray. I'm quite happy watching, thanks very much. When I retired, I retired.
Well, Niki Lauda's showing that it's more than possible to make a comeback, and out there in Australia, I know is Alan Jones, and I also know, because several team managers here have told me, that they've made repeated efforts to get Alan Jones to join them, including, I am told, the Marlboro McLaren team. And I wonder if Niki Lauda's tremendous success, notwithstanding the fact that Alan himself is leading a championship in Australia and no doubt enjoying things in his farm in the state of Victoria, I wonder if it makes him itch to get back. But anyway, back to the British Grand Prix. Niki Lauda leads now by a continuing 40-plus seconds from Didier Pironi. We are on lap 61. It is a 76-lap race. Pironi trying to stave off this man, number 11, Elio De Angelis, who is third, who has got closing up on him slowly, but some, 17 seconds behind, 16 seconds behind. And there's the gap between Lauda in the lead and Pironi in second place, 41.279 seconds. And Tambay is closing up a little on De Angelis, with in fifth position still yes, Pironi, of course, is going to be into the lead of the World Championship. And I am, frankly, as I talk to you, doubting the accuracy of the readout information I'm getting on the gap between Niki Lauda, who is leading, and Didier Pironi. And I'm therefore going to follow the old-fashioned expedient: if you want something done properly, do it yourself, and find out what the gap between Niki Lauda, the race leader, and Didier Pironi is myself. But there is the gap between the second place man, Didier Pironi, and Elio De Angelis, 1.492 seconds. And I promise you that that is right to the nearest 1,000th of a second, or was at that point. But how is Lauda doing in relation to Pironi? It is lap 62. Lauda leads, that's for sure, on his way to his second Grand Prix victory of 1982, and on his way to his 19th Grand Prix victory in his long and meritorious career. Pironi still holding off De Angelis, Tambay still in fourth position, Daly still in fifth position, and as Niki Lauda goes through, I can give you the news that Niki Lauda is definitely slowing down. We've consistently had the information that Niki Lauda was 40 seconds ahead of Didier Pironi. Well, there is Pironi coming out of Stirling's ahead of Elio De Angelis. It is 18 seconds since Niki Lauda went past me. There he is. Now, De Cesaris, I notice, is not pulling away, is not being pulled away from by Niki Lauda, if you follow me. And there is Pironi through, and the gap now between Niki Lauda, the leader, and Didier Pironi is 37 seconds. So the information was not all that much awry, but the fact is that Pironi is gaining.
Yes, I think Lauda's just doing his usual winding down act to bring the car in as easy and comfortable as he can. It doesn't appear to be anything wrong with it, and on that gap you couldn't say that that's as yet any cause for alarm.
Well, let us hope, from Niki's point of view, that that is right. Meantime, the battle for second continues. The Renault of René Arnoux, the Brabham BMW of Riccardo Patrese still stand forlornly just past the finishing line as round Druids Hill Bend into the descent to Graham Hill Bend and onto the left-hand at Surtees at 115 miles an hour. There's Prost, there is Brian Hinton, so it was Alboreto that went out. Here is Niki Lauda, number 8, from Hof near Salzburg, where he has an absolutely magnificent home. Pironi goes through, and now Pironi has very definitely, there he is, consolidated his second place because he is 3.3 seconds ahead of Elio De Angelis, who is in third position. And Elio De Angelis is still some 18 seconds, is he, in front of Patrick Tambay. Well, we'll soon see. There is Pironi. Patrick Tombay as Pironi goes round Hawthorne Bend, comes out of Surtees, and there is Elio De Angelis into the right-hander at Dingledell corner. And yes, there's confirmation. Pironi pulling away from Elio De Angelis. So it is V8 Ford-powered Marlboro McLaren in the lead. V6 turbocharged Ferrari, there it is, in second place. Yet another Ford V8 in third place, that of Elio De Angelis. It would be wrong to say that the race is wildly exciting at the moment. It is certainly extremely interesting, and particularly from the point of view of motor racing enthusiasts. And I must congratulate Patrick Tombay, who has driven and is driving a magnificent race. There's Lauda. Now, look back along the course, and you will next see, you can see, and while I'm talking to you, the course is completely clear, and all the time Lauda is going on his way whilst we wait for Didier Pironi to appear at the right-hander at Dingledell corner, and then the left-hander at Stirling's Bend, and we wait and we wait and we wait. The seconds tick away. We're doing this deliberately. There's the Alfa Romeo. Now behind them, there is Pironi, and then about 2 seconds behind him is Elio De Angelis. So, having sat there and watched your screens, you know exactly what the time gap is between the leader, Niki Lauda, the second place man, number 28, Didier Pironi, and what a season Pironi is having. He may not be winning the British Grand Prix, but he finished 6th in Belgium. He finished 1st at San Marino. Sorry, he failed to start in Belgium, of course, because he was honouring his teammate Gilles Villeneuve after his tragic accident. But he went on to finish 2nd at Monaco and 3rd at Detroit, and then to win in Holland, as a result of which he's now on his way to leading the World Championship if he can just stay in the first 6 of the British Grand Prix, which he will do with no trouble at all, provided he has no car problems. And I told you a little while ago that Eddie Cheever had moved up to 7th place. Well, he's now moved out of the race altogether. He's disappeared off our lap charts as we watch Pironi, and on lap 766 with 9 to go, including the one that they are on. So we are certainly into the closing stages of round 10 of the 1982 World Championship. The positions are that Niki Lauda is leading, that Didier Pironi is in 2nd position, about 37 seconds behind. In 3rd position, some 5 seconds now behind Pironi, and dropping back is Elio De Angelis. In 4th position, it is Patrick Tombay, and the gap between De Angelis and Tombay is 15 seconds. I don't think Tombay can possibly catch De Angelis. There's De Angelis in the black and gold John Player special. I don't think Tombay can possibly catch him, but it is possible. And De Cesaris's engine, the V12 engine of Andrea De Cesaris, who is in 7th position, is sounding very, very rough to me. But in 6th position it is still Alain Prost, and in 8th position is the 2nd of the 2 Alfa Romeos, that of Bruno Giacomelli. So there you have it. Well, I don't think that De Cesaris has got much longer to go in this race, unless it's just cracked exhaust pipe or pipes, which is possible, but I think it's more than that. He's going very, very slowly indeed, I can tell you. And he... De Cesaris. Well, the gap between Didier Pironi now and Elio De Angelis is 6 seconds. So the Ferrari is pulling away from the Lotus. But I've got a watch running on the gap between the car that you're looking at now, Patrick Tombay, and it's down to 12 seconds. Patrick Tombay is gaining on the car you are looking at, number 11, Elio De Angelis. He's 12 seconds behind. And I would not be at all surprised if we see Ferraris finish second and third. And that is De Cesaris without a doubt. There is, I said his engine was rough, and sure enough, on lap 69, out of the race goes De Cesaris. So people who are no longer in this British Grand Prix include Keke Rosberg, René Arnoux, Riccardo Patrese, Teo Fabi, Chico Serra, John Watson, Rosberg, of course, we've seen going to the pits, Derek Warwick, and now Andrea De Cesaris and Roberto Guerrero. Now this is the interest, because Patrick Tambay, the man about whom I have said so much in his 52nd Grand Prix for Ferrari, is definitely gaining on Elio De Angelis. I gave you the gap as 12 seconds on the last lap. I've got a stopwatch running. There is Patrick Tambay going through to complete his 68th lap, and he is now a time of 10 seconds behind Elio De Angelis. So Patrick Tambay is gaining at the rate of 2 seconds a lap on Elio De Angelis. This is lap 70, so he could catch him before the end of the race and take third position. And that would be a magnificent drive if he did that thing. On lap 70, Lauda leads, 38 seconds now the lead. De Angelis second, sorry, Pironi second, of course, De Angelis third, Tambay fourth. Then in fifth position behind Tambay is Alain Prost. In sixth position is Bruno Giacomelli now. The Alfa Romeo is almost up into the points. In fact, he is up into the points, and that's the first time that Bruno Giacomelli has been there for a very long time. He has no points at all yet this year, and this is the 10th Grand Prix when all is said and done. There is Prost, fifth place. Well, we're seeing a Renault now in the closing stages of a Grand Prix, and I have to say, with absolutely no malice, that is the first time that we've seen this for one reason or another, sometimes driver error, sometimes car problem, for a long, long time. And it will be a very considerable relief and to the Renault personnel. Niki Lauda is now on his 71st lap in this 76 lap race. There is Prost in fifth position in the Renault. Lauda, Pironi, De Angelis, third position. Fourth is Tambay, closing up on De Angelis. Fifth is Prost, there he is. And in sixth position, Giacomelli, obviously frantically hoping that he's going to make that position right to the end, at least to get himself in a World Championship scoring position. Well, it looks as though... No, I better not say it. I've said it so many times in the past and things have changed dramatically. What really matters is what is the gap between De Angelis and Tambay. And it's closing all the time, because it has now come from 12 to 10 and from 10 to 7. Patrick Tambay has taken 5 seconds out of the lead which the third place man Elio De Angelis has, and when we see Elio De Angelis the next time, we will almost certainly see Patrick Tambay not so very far behind him.
We also have Derek Daly putting in a fine drive fairly close behind Tambay.
There is De Angelis. Now, where is Tambay? De Angelis goes into Dingledell, up into Dingledell corner. There's Giacomelli, and there is Tambay. I say again, since we started measuring the gap, it has come down from 12 seconds to 10, from 10 to 8, from 8 to 6, and now it is considerably less than that. Commendatore Enzo Ferrari, to whom his head man in Europe on the administrative side, Marco Piccinini, reports to the 78-year-old Commendatore after every practice and every race. Enzo Ferrari back in Milan. is going to hear very probably that Pironi has finished second and Torbay finished third, because there on the right is Torbay, and you saw Elio De Angelis disappear out of the picture just before Torbay entered on the other side. And there are few cars left in this race now. You can see from the way that they are spread out all around the course. In fact, there's De Angelis, there is Torbay, and that is the battle for third. By the way, Derek Daly is well down the field, of course. We've seen him from time to time. There he is, as I say it. Derek Daly has been into the pits and come out again. And there is Bruno Giacomelli. There is Torbay. And the important thing is, what is the gap between De Angelis and Torbay? It is 2 seconds. Take no notice of that, it's closed up. There is the Ferrari. He's got to get past the 2 cars in front of him. The Arrows and the Alfa Romeo, they're disappearing. Down to Graham Hill Bend is the black and gold John Player Special of Elio De Angelis in third position. Now you see the first and the fourth cars in that picture, and there is Torbay going through and taking the Arrows. Now he's closing up on Bruno Giacomelli in the Alfa Romeo. There is Elio De Angelis, who is third. Behind him is Giacomelli, who has been lapped and is in 6th position. So Patrick Torbay, who is currently 4th, is about to lap the 6th place man. Niki Lauda, of course, still well out there in front, 33 seconds ahead, but he's obviously pacing himself to victory, easing himself home. And Torbay now can see Elio De Angelis, and he has got, as he comes through shortly to finish his 73rd lap, another 3 laps, including the one he's about to start, to catch and pass the Italian. And now is he going to go past Giacomelli? He's got to get past him, of course, because De Angelis is in front of the Ferrari and in front of the Alfa Romeo. It's considerably less than 2 seconds now. We are on lap 74. 1.6 seconds says the delay, and that is it. And that is the delay between the 3rd and the 4th place man. As I talk to you, Lauda leads, Pironi is 2nd, De Angelis is 3rd, number 27 Patrick Torbay is in 4th position. In 5th position is Alain Prost. 6th and lapped is Bruno Giacomelli, and now you see De Angelis, Giacomelli, Torbay and Daly, and the 2 that matter are De Angelis there and Torbay there. Prince Charming, they call him, Patrick Torbay, the French journalists, they call him Prince Charming, and rightly so. Enormously good-looking, tremendously personable, and a really nice man, and a really superb driver, as he's showing us. They're going into Paddock Hill Bend now. This is lap 75, the last lap but 1. That's the race leader, Niki Lauda. 32 seconds now. He's sitting in the cockpit there, just taking things easy by his standards, getting everything right, changing gear just a little bit earlier, braking just a little bit earlier, keeping out from the edges of the apex of the bends, and Niki Lauda is now on his last lap. Are we going to see Patrick Torbay take Elio De Angelis in 3rd place? It looks as though we are not, because there's De Angelis, and there's 3 cars now. No, there is Torbay having lapped Jochen Maas, and he's up to Giacomelli now. I don't think he can possibly do it, because Niki Lauda is well through on his last lap. The checkered flag is going to go out to greet the Austrian home to his 19th win in his 123 races. James, what do you think of this drive?
Well, it's a relatively easy drive for Niki, but he'd done all the preparation. He deserved the win. after a good start to the season with his comeback. He had a little bit of a doldrum period. The car didn't go straight because of match luck. And Tombe is now right up behind De Angelis. And of course, with the power he's got in his engine, he may well be able to pass him on the straight. He's closing right up to him. They're going out onto the...
They come, and Niki Lauda enters the finishing straight, and Niki Lauda takes the checkered flag and wins the British Grand Prix of 1982. But who is going to come through after Pironi? It's Tombe has got ahead of De Angelis, so it is going to be Ferrari's second and third. Pironi finishing in second position. We wait now for Didier Pironi, and there is his teammate Patrick Tombe as we wait for the Ferrari to go through of Pironi. There he is. Didier Pironi finishes second and takes the lead in the World Championship, and Patrick Tombe ahead of the black and gold Lotus there crosses the line. There he is doing so to finish in third position, with Elio De Angelis in fourth position. Well, a marvellous finish to the British Grand Prix, because Alain Prost will finish in fifth position and Bruno Giacomelli in sixth place. So there is the victor, the brilliant Austrian, who has shown once again that experience, craft, race guile, determination, and a bad finish for number 30, Mauro Baldi, in the Arrows with a badly smoking engine. Well, Niki Lauda's done it. That gives him 9 points in the World Championship, and that takes him well up through the field. But subject to official confirmation, a win for Niki Lauda. In second place, Didier Pironi. Third, Patrick Tombe. Fourth, De Angelis.
Der Sieg in diesem Jahr. 9 Punkte für Lauda, 6 für Pironi, 4 für Patrick Tombe, der in der letzten Runde, in der letzten Kurve, Elio De Angelis auf Lotus noch überholt hat. 2 Punkte für Derek Daly und 1 Punkt für den Franzosen Alain Prost auf Renault Turbo. Prost ist also zum ersten Mal nach Rio wieder im Ziel. Zum ersten Mal gibt es also wieder eine Zielankunft für die Renault Turbos nach den vielen Enttäuschungen der letzten Wochen und Monate. Noch einmal das Ergebnis im heutigen Grand Prix von England. Lauda gewinnt, zweiter Pironi, dritter Tombe, vierter De Angelis, fünfter Daly und sechster Prost. In der Weltmeisterschaft der erwartete Führungswechsel. Jetzt führt Didier Pironi mit insgesamt 35 Punkten vor John Watson, der heute ausgeschieden ist. Niki Lauda liegt an der dritten Stelle. 2 McLaren also im Augenblick auf den Plätzen 2 und 3 in der Weltmeisterschaft. Niki Lauda hat ein großartiges Rennen gewonnen und hat diesen klassischen Grand Prix von England von 5. Startplatz weg, also als Sieger beendet.
Ja, also der zweite Sieg von Niki Lauda.
25,726 und wir schauen diese Einblendung an für die Weltmeisterschaft. Pironi, wie vorausgesagt, jetzt Leader mit 35 Punkten, zweiter Watson 30, dritter Lauda 24, vierter Rosberg 21, Patrese 19, Prost 19 und siebter noch Piquet mit 17 und einer von diesen 7 wird Weltmeister. So viel lässt sich jetzt schon sagen, aber eben nicht mehr. Zweiter Didier Pironi, also 25,726 zurück. Dritter Patrick Tombe, der in der letzten Runde an Elio De Angelis vorbeiging, mit 38,436 Sekunden zurück. Vierter Elio De Angelis, 41,242. Er hatte Glück, überhaupt noch über die Ziellinie zu kommen. Ich denke, das Benzin ging ihm aus. Fünfter Derek Daly, 41,430. Um ein Haar wäre De Angelis also auch noch von Daly abgefangen worden. Sechster Prost, 41,636. Hier fand also auf den letzten Metern ein Sprint statt. Siebter dann Bruno Giacomelli, eine Runde zurück. Achter Hinton, eine Runde zurück. Neunter Baldi, 2 Runden zurück. Baldi, dessen beschädigten Wagen wir auf der letzten Runde oder nach Ziel wahrscheinlich noch kurz sehen konnten. 10. Maas, 3 Runden zurück. 11. De Cesar ist noch klassiert mit 10 Runden Rückstand, ob schon das Ende des Rennens nicht sah. 12. Cheever, 16 Runden zurück, auch er klassiert oder zumindest hier aufgeführt. 13. Sura, 17 Sekunden Rückstand. Diese Fahrer werden allerdings dann nicht gewertet werden, wenn sie auch hier jetzt noch erscheinen, weil sie keine 90% der Gesamtdistanz zurückgelegt haben. Der letzte Klassierte wird Jochen Maas sein mit 3 Runden Rückstand. Das heißt also nur 10 Fahrer echt im Klassement, 10 von 26 gestarteten Grand Prix-Piloten. Und wenn wir uns diesen WM-Zwischenstand noch einmal anschauen, dann fällt doch auf, dass Pironi natürlich WM-mäßig gesehen der Sieger des Tages ist, indem er davonzieht auf 35 Punkte. Watson ist stehen geblieben. Lauda hat natürlich gewaltig profitiert, stellt den Anschluss her, aber der Sieger des Tages ist zweifellos Didier Pironi. Ferrari geht in Führung. 5 Punkte, das ist recht schön und ist beruhigend. Und man darf nicht vergessen, es kommen jetzt noch Turbostrecken, es kommen Strecken, die Ferrari liegen. Es kommen allerdings auch Strecken, die Renault liegen. Und Alain Prost ist ja weiterhin mit dabei. Man darf also gespannt sein auf eine spannende Fortsetzung dieser Weltmeisterschaft. Während wir hier einen Blick noch einmal haben über die riesigen Parkplätze, über die Zelte, über diese ganze Strecke von Brands Hatch und einen strahlenden Niki Lauda sehen, der sich jetzt für die Siegerehrung bereit macht, möchte ich Ihnen ankündigen, in einer Woche bereits, am Sonntag, den 25. Juli, den nächsten großen Preis, den großen Preis von Frankreich nämlich, auf dem Circuit Paul Ricard in Le Castellet bei Bandol in Südfrankreich. Hier Didier Pironi mit Niki Lauda, der erste und der zweite. Lauda strahlt.
Niki Lauda, many
Der möchte ihm das
congratulations on your
verargen.
second Grand Prix victory here at Brands Hatch. A little more
Die
dramatic than the other
üblichen
one.
Zeremonien werden
Everything
jetzt
worked very well.
losgehen.
Marlboro MP4 was fantastic right from the beginning. They were surprised to bring the lead so early, and then it lasted all the way through.
And a tremendous reception, Nicky, from an unbelievably large crowd. I mean, were you aware of their support for you?
Oh, England. I think the British people liked me, at least I saw it when I went to the finish, and I think it was a fantastic race today.
Now, Nicky, if my mathematics is right, you're now third in the World Championship. It's Pironi 1, Watson 2, and then Niki Lauda. That's a bit interesting for the rest of the season.
Yeah, good, because I lost a couple of points in the past, so I have to make up now.
And how do you feel now about the rest of the season? You have proved that the turbo cars can be beaten by the Ford cars. 149th victory for the Ford engine. Can you make it 150?
It's going to be difficult, I tell you. I think Brands was one of the last races where we can beat them, because all the next races are very long straightaways. It's going to be very difficult.
Well, Nicky, an immensely popular victory. Thank you very much for speaking to us, and let's hope we see many more this season.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicky. Didier Pironi, could we bring you forward, the man who now leads the World Championship after a superb drive in his Ferrari? Didier, you didn't win the race, but you're now in the lead by 5 points according to Armas.
Didier Pironi.
Yes, I am.
Lassen Sie sich also reden in der Annahme.
I'm very happy about this race because I didn't think before to come here to finish before third in the third first. So it's a good surprise for me and for Ferrari, I think, because the track was not a good track for our car here, and the coming track are much better for us. So
Didier, you look as if it's been exceptionally hard work.
Well, I had a few problems with the throttle and tires, but the car has been very good all the race.
Last question, can you keep in the lead for the championship?
I will try.
Thank you.